All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Midnight Magic Musings channel. I am your humble host. Who am I? Well, I'm the Lord Cephas, joined by the Earl of Florida. Thank you, Rick. We appreciate that. Always a help for being on the show. Earl, how you doing?
Star Wars news.
It is indeed Star Wars news. The Earl, a little excited for this broadcast. We're recording at a bit of a different time. It is Midnight Magic Musings. Normally, we're doing this in the middle of the night, but for today, we had to do it early in the morning with actually daylight hours and sunlight. It's a little off putting for what we do, but we're going to do our best here. But this is Midnight Magic Musings, episode number 18. Continue to break records here and to grow. We want to thank everyone for their support on the Midnight Magic Musings channel, for our Combat One Wrestling podcast, and also for our shorts that we're doing that we've received a lot of good feedback on. And so, what we're going to ask of you to do is go ahead and like this video if you appreciate the content that we're doing. Click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. That way, you will always be notified anytime we drop any information. And share this thing out on social media. We really do appreciate it. We're grateful for everyone who sends us comments, feedback, good or bad. We'll take it all, and we greatly do appreciate it. Before we get too deep into this morning, I do want to say this. We had a YouTuber who I had worked with a little bit over the last month or two by the name of Golden Blue Dude, who passed away a couple of days ago unexpectedly. Earl, he was barely 40 years old and passed suddenly. And so we want to send our condolences to his fiance, his children that are left behind as well. As a good dude, no pun intended. And just hug and love the people that mean the most to you, because you just never know when you're going to get that chance. So, Golden Blue Dude, you will be missed, but we appreciate your friendship. We appreciate your contributions to the YouTube community. All right. Well, Earl, this is what people came to talk about. We are going to talk about some important stuff. We are going to talk about Star Wars Celebration. It's kind of a big deal. It happens every 2 years, and this year's version was being held over in London, England. Now, the time difference is a little bit off from there versus over here, but early on Friday morning, they began airing Star Wars Celebration. There were a lot of YouTube channels that were covering it, watching the information live. The crowd was hot. The announcers or the MCs were incredibly annoying, but that's what you want your MCs to do when you have a massive Comic Con full of a lot of people who are just eagerly anticipating whatever news that was going to be leaked. Earl, did you have any specific expectations going into Star Wars Celebration?
My expectations were give me Star Wars movies that I want to see, or
Okay.
else there will be a riot in the Earl of Florida's house. But I'm sure my 5 kids will cut it down.
So it always comes back to violence in the Earl's house. If you don't understand what that means, just go watch one of our Combat One Wrestling podcasts. You'll probably understand what it means. But I was looking forward to seeing what are they going to do with the movies, because they've not had a movie in almost 7 years. That's by the time the next movie comes out, it'll be about that time, maybe a little bit longer. That's a long time for a major tentpole franchise to go. Guardians of the Galaxy is coming out what in June, I believe.
Yep.
When that comes out, it will have been almost 7 years since they had Episode Two, because it was in 2017. So a lot of these franchises have been strung out, so to speak, between releases, and it's always interesting to see what will be the fan base's reaction. Will they be super supportive of it? Is there some apathy? It's hard to say. But before we get into the movie talk, I kind of want to take it piece by piece here, if we could. And no, we're not going to discuss Indiana Jones 5 on this podcast, even though they did drop the trailer. Yes, I know the Earl's quite upset about that. He'll have to give you his thoughts at a later date. But Earl, I want to start with the first series that they plan on dropping, and that is the Acolyte. Now,
Mhm.
you are far more familiar with the concept rather of the Acolyte, and perhaps some of the backstory and machinations of that series. Why don't you talk about it a little bit?
On the one hand, I do know a bit about it, but on the other hand, the problem with the legends and the Disney canon, and we don't know what they're going to take from what's established in the legends and introduce as officially canon now. We've seen some creative liberty taken, which they have every right to.
Mhm.
So, you know, I need to have something that I can see and sink my teeth into in order to know what's going on. Uh, so supposedly it's going to be following, that era's most powerful force user, and depending what they go, how they go from a normal person to a Jedi to a Sith back to a Jedi, but without being able to see something, I have no idea. So all I can go off of is the casting rumors, and you do know who they have officially quote unquote cast as the acolyte.
Now, is it Jude Law that's in this particular vehicle?
I believe he's going to be in Skeleton Crew.
Skeleton Crew. Okay, he's the one with the kids.
That's the one that's going to be in the current era of the Mandoverse. The Disney Plus Boba Fett,
Hmm.
Mandalorian, Ahsoka. I'd even put Andor Lucy in there, even though there's probably a 10-year difference there. Maybe not quite 10 years, but close to 10-year fluctuation in the timeline there. But Acolyte takes place more than 10 years into the past. From what I understand, it takes place almost 1,000 years in the past. So they have a lot of information and wealth of lore that they can pull from. But until you can give me something to sink my teeth in, I have no idea if they're actually going to follow anything that fans of the legends will be able to identify.
Do you think they have to pull directly from the legends to satisfy the majority of the fan base, or do you think there is some wiggle room for legends fans and newbies, or just normal folk who just don't know the lore?
Well, the plus side is it is legend, so you don't have to use any or all of the lore that's been established.
Mhm.
I mean, it's done so well for Disney because look at the sequel trilogy. There's no use on Bong. And taking that step out and being unique and going different than Legends works so well for them.
Right.
Sarcasm made her run things.
Nah.
But on the other hand, they are creating their own universe, their cinematic universe, and through streaming and everything like that. And there are a lot of fans of Star Wars, and I won't say they're not true Star Wars fans because there's different levels of fandom, and some people prefer reading, people prefer the games,
Mhm.
some people prefer the comics. So I mean, there's so many different avenues and opportunities to take in Star Wars as a fan that I'm not going to call any single medium. You have to do this in order to be a true fan because that takes away from the fans and Star Wars as a whole. So you know what? If they can do something that pays tribute a little, at least some, to what legacy Star Wars fans can recognize, then I think that'll go a long way. If they go a different path or a different story, if they can just respect where they did come from instead of just completely blowing out of the water, I think it all comes down to something good. Give us
Mhm.
something good. Give us, something fun, something Star Warsy, something that's intelligent. It doesn't have to be, you know, Einstein level IQ. It just has to be smart, not stupid.
Well, I would make the comparison Star Trek Card. A lot of Star Trek fans have not been fans of it. Season one, season two, season three comes along. And for a lot of my friends who were very critical of season one and season two, and I understand why, I don't disagree with a lot of the criticisms. Season three has been a breath of fresh air, if you will, for that revival. And it just goes to show if you give people what they want as a whole, you can get a lot more people involved. And I think that's really what Disney has to do. There's a lot of fractured in our world in society as a whole, but bringing this down outside of the geopolitical of life into Star Wars, there's a lot of fractures in there too. And so if they can create something that's good, and they can maybe kind of start mending some of those fences, whether they were caused by Disney or the fan base or some third party entity, regardless of the reasons, you need to start building back some of those bridges. Because if you don't, you're going to see that chasm, get wider, and that's only going to hurt us fans because what we're going to see are less and less releases. We're going to see less and less emphasis put on this because look, Star Wars should be an evergreen franchise. It's popular no matter what. Even if there's no movie in theaters and no new series on Disney Plus, the toys should sell, the merch should sell because people are like, I love Star Wars. Our age, that was our Marvel. For
Well,
the age that came after that, it's the prequel movies. Now, I didn't love everything about the prequel movies, but you know what? As I've gotten older, I appreciate what George Lucas was trying to do. I'm good with them. I get
yeah.
it now. Now I'm a little older. I feel like I'm a little smarter in what he's trying to do. The sequel trilogies, that's just kind of either you like it or you don't. I don't think there's any. I don't think there's any middle ground on that one. Um, but Disney and Star Wars as a whole, Lucasfilm, they need a real victory, and this is going to be one of the ones. Now, this comes out in 2024, so it's not an immediate release. But I do want to ask you one thing: is it true that Brie Larson is attached to this project or was attached to the project?
That's what I've read is that she was the star of this particular vehicle. But again, there is so little out there to read and learn about that I can't say with 100% credibility what's going on. Also, I said 1,000 years. I'm sorry. This is set at the end of the High Republic era, so it's 100 years before Star Wars Episode One, the
Okay.
Phantom.
Okay.
And uh, Kathleen Kennedy called it Frozen meets Kill Bill. I don't
Well,
know how to interpret that.
Earl,
I mean,
I've seen both of those, and I'm just trying to figure out. I
are
mean,
we going to
go ahead.
are we going to be singing Kill Bill to that catchy tune from Kill Bill?
Well, I'm just wondering, is Elsa gonna like have like ice swords coming out of her hand, like I don't know how that would work.
I mean, technically, through the force, that is a force ability that you can control and create ice potentially. So I mean, it's I don't know, but we do know that the first four episodes are filmed already, and that at Celebration they revealed some of the footage at the Celebration. Nothing has dropped, obviously, officially,
Mhm.
but I'm thinking that probably relatively quickly they're going to want to put something out there, at least a teaser for the fans to see, because it's going to be a race to keep the spoilers from what was shown at Celebration, and so I still don't know what to say about the Acolyte. So that's all I can leave it as right there. I just don't know.
Well, the last thing I'll say on this is, unfortunately for Lucasfilm, they had the High Republic books, and according to newspaper trades and like legitimate news sources, not us, right? The High Republic books did not sell very well. In fact, there's one picture in a newspaper article I read this week. It's an old one from several years ago. They literally put the Timothy's on, and this is going to be a great transition. His Heir to the Empire series and those books on the bookshelf and put the High Republic books literally on the floor. They were trying to get people to come. No, they were trying to get people to come to the bookshelf that had Star Wars stuff. But they were
Yeah.
putting out the re-releases of stuff that had sold very well in hopes of getting people to read that. So is it a good idea? I don't know. The fan base didn't, as a whole, react well, but we're going to have to see what they do. Time will tell. I will say this though: it better hit because Disney cannot. Disney's had enough black eyes over the last 4 to 6 weeks. They don't need one more. And with that, we're going to transition to hopefully something a little more positive, at least on the upfronts, and that is Ahsoka. Now, Earl, I got to take the lead on this one. It was early yesterday morning. I was getting ready for work. I do have a real job that I do have to attend at least on occasion. And as I'm getting ready, I got to see the Ahsoka trailer. And I fanboyed out like, totally. I loved everything about the trailer. It is what I believe Star Wars to be in my 8-year-old mind that even at my advanced age I still have. It looked like it sounded like it felt like it. Now, Earl, before I go into a full breakdown of the trailer and full on giddiness, what are your thoughts about them actually completing and releasing an Ahsoka series?
Initially, I saw the trailer and I was like, "This looks pretty cool." I mean, it hit a lot of the the I's across the T's that you want to see in a Star Wars film.
Mm-hmm.
You've got lightsaber fights, you've got action, you've got nostalgia because you've got the Rebels crew, some of them at least,
Mm-hmm.
in the trailer. You've got new villains. You've got Grand Admiral Thrawn. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in this trailer, and we could sit there and talk about the entire thing. Okay, so let's talk about it.
All right, let's go with it. Now, you know my feelings on Ahsoka. I made them clear previously. I'm not a huge fan of the Eeyore with a lightsaber motif of I'm very reserved. I'm not going to get super excited. Not my personality, so I don't super gravitate towards that. But as long as she's able to, have some personality, I think I'll be okay with it. I enjoyed the Clone Wars and her in it, but she was she was far younger in that,
Yeah.
more childlike, so to speak, and in Clone Wars or Rebels as well. A friend of mine was talking to me yesterday and said, it's just Rebels live action. It's just a new season of that. I'm like, it does definitely pick up the story where Rebels left off. I mean, you see, and you said it, you see Hera, you see Sabine, you see Chopper as the droid. We've already saw Zeb, who was in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
On the other episode ago. So you've got four of
She eliminated Ezra.
Well, we're going to see where that goes because that was one of the big mysteries when the show ended is what happened to Ezra Bridger, what happened to Thrawn. You're not going to see Kanan Jarrus. You can go and watch the series, figure out why you won't see him. But I thought it was really, really good. It piqued my interest. And then just the back shot of Thrawn walking away. I'm like, I'm finally going to get to see him in live action. And I'll say this, I really hope the makeup or the prosthetics or however they're going to do it, I don't need it to be CGI. I just need it to be good. I just need it to be good.
You don't have to CGI the chick. You just paint them blue and give them red contact lenses, black hair, and done.
Yeah, but see, remember Mandalorian had the swamp creature as the main pirate.
Yeah, Swamp Thing.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, not the greatest. It looked like something out of one of Jim Henson's creations that you would see on the Muppet Show, which in that world works super well. It was a little iffy in real life in the Mandalorian. I'm just hopeful that it's a good representation. That's a big thing for me. And then one other thing I want to bring up is there is a fella, a little bit of a bigger fella, older fella, and he's got a red lightsaber.
No, he doesn't.
He doesn't?
Orange.
Orange, excuse me. My eyes are not very good early in the morning watching stuff on my phone. Is there a significance to the color of the lightsaber?
Well, so far in the Star Wars canon live action, even with Disney, you've got blue and green, and then you've got the red. And you're the only, obviously for Sith, but the only other two allowed so far has been the purple from Mace Windu, Samuel Jackson's Mace Windu.
Well, yeah, but he's Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, he's Samuel Jackson. And come on. And the other one is obviously Ahsoka with her silver white short lightsaber, Shotos. In Legends, you were allowed to have pretty much any color you wanted because when you created your lightsaber, there are specific gems that do specific colors, but there are also specific gems that may potentially amplify certain abilities. So if there was a Force user who was weaker in a particular ability, they could get a crystal that was attuned, that could be attuned closer to them, and that naturally helped amplify a specific thing. Like they had crystals from like Mustafar, or obviously crystals created from fiery lava aspects, things like that, that
Right.
have just kind of characteristics of how it was created. It's able to amplify potentially that particular uh, uh, element, and also influenced the lightsaber blades color, but
Mhm.
also strength, and how clean it created the plasma blade. Like Kylo Ren's lightsaber is a bit ragged versus some of the cleaner ones. But also in Legacy, that the Jedi had specific planets where they had crystal troves where you could go and get a specific one, and blah 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 blah. So the short version is, in Legends, you can pretty much have any color, and also with some of the different paths that Jedi had, like they had Jedi Guardians, Jedi Sentinels, Jedi Investigators, uh, all these different paths that you could get a crystal that made a lightsaber color that particular color. So if people saw the lightsaber, they're like, "Oh, that's a Sentinel," or "Oh, that's a Guardian," or "Oh, that's an Investigator," or "Oh, that's just a guy who likes psychedelic colors." It could be. It's much more free in the Legends than it
Right
is.
on, man. Right on.
So I mean, uh, you know what? The orange could mean something, or it could just easily be, "Hey guys, look, this isn't a Sith. It certainly ain't a Jedi." That could literally be what it means. Is we're somewhere in between, because nowhere in the trailer did you hear the word Sith.
Correct.
So you talked about Ray Stevenson. He's the big guy with the white hair, white beard.
Mhm.
I am a big fan of his. From you know, he was Punisher Warzone.
Okay.
He was in the newest Three Musketeers that I think came out in 2011. Despite that, I love Ray Stevenson. He was hilarious in it. He was Volstung, one of the Warriors Three in Thor,
Okay.
the red beard and everything.
Mhm.
He was also in a TV series called Rome on HBO, where it went 2 seasons, but he was obviously he was a Roman soldier. But he was in Vikings, so he's done a lot of swordplay in his career. I mean, a lot of swordplay. He's a big guy, hulking. He's also a good actor, so I'm really looking forward to whoever he is.
Right.
Now, do you have any? We discussed this a little bit off camera. Do you have any kind of leanings to what he could potentially be playing?
Well, I talked to a couple of my friends yesterday, and they all wanted to be the son of Count Dooku.
Yeah,
Just because of the look, the facial hair, and whatnot, the black outfit. And maybe that's something that they could tie back into. So I'm not really sure, but I will tell you my biggest moment from the trailer, other than seeing the back of Thrawn. And by the way, I was happy to see Chopper too, but that wasn't my biggest moment. It's when you hear Ahsoka utter the phrase, "He's the heir to the Empire."
gone. Ching, 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 ching.
When you go back as old as we are, when Timothy Zahn wrote his Heir to the Empire, yeah, I know. What? Uh,
Not old.
yeah, we are. His trilogy back in the early 90s. I remember getting the book. Now, this was a different time. I remember, I think the book was like $12.99 hardback, maybe 13 or 14.99. That was a big investment for my mama. And I remember getting the book and reading it in 3 days. I was so excited to see those characters again. It was a brand new story. Everybody was there. So that series holds a special place in my heart. And
Yeah.
I've always wondered why Disney never minded once they bought. Always saying we don't have anything to work off of. You do. You've got 25 years worth of stuff.
Oh
And
yeah.
then to hear that phrase mentioned, I'm not saying it's going to follow the storyline exactly. In fact, I'm pretty sure it won't, because we got to Disneyfy everything. Because you know what? If it's your IP, you want to put your stamp on it. I get that.
Yeah.
But as a longtime fan of Star Wars, when I heard that popped me. It excited me big, because for the first time forever, I feel like they referenced something that's really special to me as a fan, and so that really resonated with me.
Well, my thing is, it came out in what, 91 by Bantam Books.
Yeah.
I mean, Timothy Zahn, he gave us Star Wars what we have now. Would none of it would have, none of it would exist in this shape, way, or form if it wasn't for Tim Zahn's books. His trilogy was, groundbreaking. And it literally, we use that word a lot in the world, but it was groundbreaking. It set precedent. It said Star Wars is still relatable. People still want to read it. They want this. So Heir to the Empire was also a very good trilogy as well. On top of being, bringing us back and going, oh, it's Star Wars. Read this. It was also very, very good. One of my worries for the Heir to the Empire
Mm-hmm.
and Ahsoka is the fact that okay, so far we've got things that we can conceivably say there's a reason why we don't see Luke Skywalker. Now we're entering a point where a galaxy threat, Grand Admiral Thrawn, Heir to the Empire returning, the Empire returning with a lot of power.
Right.
We see new force users popping in. We can only assume they're going to be part of the antagonist.
Probably.
Where is Luke Skywalker? We know he's not on the island yet playing hermit. We know that
drinking his milk. Yes.
So, is he going to feature in this at all? Is he just going to be mentioned? And how do how are you going to explain away Luke Skywalker is now retired? No, he's not. We already know he's not from watching the sequel trilogy and from his appearances in The Mandalorian 2. We know what's going on.
And that's in that same time frame. It's not years in the future. It's happening right now, so to speak.
And then on the other hand, we saw the little hologram council headed by Mon Mothma. We know from Legends, and we also know from the sequel trilogy that Princess Leia was directly involved with the New Republic. So where is she? And
she's too busy ruining the New Republic government, as the Mandalorian has shown us.
But those are some of my points. Is we had these very important characters in universe that were important in the OG trilogy and nearly just as important in the sequel trilogy.
Right.
With something so big, do they appear? Are we going to recast? Are we going to try to de-age? Are we going to try? What's going on? Or are they going to be in it at all? And if they're not in it at all, does that take away from these characters? See, we did our tour with the big bad. Yeah. We're going to return for 2 decades, and we'll do it again.
See, I think that's the hard part about pulling back on material so far back. If you go into it, like let's say we do it, saying, "Hey, we know the story, and it's a great story," and then, Joe Bob Smith is the Jedi who is leading the faction along with Ahsoka. I'm like, Joe Bob, what?
He's from Florida.
Yeah, he must be. Yeah. So I certainly see your concern there, but here's the thing: we're only about 3 or 4 months away because that thing's going to drop in August of this year, 2023, on Disney Plus. So I'm going to guess we won't get all the answers revealed. That's just not the way it works. But we'll get some of the answers revealed, and we're going to get those here pretty shortly.
In a few months.
Yeah, we're going to see how things go. All right, Earl. Let's switch gears to some other news that came out. They are creating 3 new Star Wars movies. Now, we have talked on the show. We're 18 episodes into our run, and we talk about other shows as well that we do. Star Wars is a movie franchise. It's not a TV series. It needs to be a movie franchise. Big screen, big explosions, big battles, space, planets, aliens. Sit there with your popcorn and just enjoy the spectacle. They're finally getting back to that. Now, they've had problems over the last 6 weeks or so of directors coming in, directors going out. We lost the 2 fellas from Game of Thrones, didn't quite stick around. We jettisoned Ryan Johnson, Patty Jenkins. Pretty much Kevin Feige's thing is probably dead too. So they announced 3 new movies coming out, 3 different directors. So hopefully this time, Earl, Lucasfilm actually has a plan of what they want those 3 movies to be. But I want to focus on the one that's going to be helmed, directed, written, whatever, by Dave Filoni.
Yeah.
Now, Dave Filoni is a fan favorite, and he ought to be. Did good work on the Clone Wars, did good work on Rebels. Now, not everybody watched them and loved them, but if you did, they were very enjoyable, and they've really, to be honest, informed where Disney has taken this since they've had the property. So there's value in going back and watching that, I think. I think the Clone Wars actually helps fill in the gaps of episode 2 and 3 better than just the movies by themselves. But, not everybody's going to put in that effort. I get that. But he's very popular. He's written a lot of stuff. Don't tell me those Rebels characters aren't coming back because of him, because he wrote that. He loves that. But I want to talk a little bit about what he said. And that's going to lead us into our last topic as well. And that is, it almost seems like his movie is going to kind of tie up a lot of loose ends with all the different series that are taking place and culminating in one more movie that we'll talk about here at the end,
Yeah.
that kind of brings their stories to a completion. How interested are you in the next three Star Wars movies? What jumps out to you the most with that announcement?
Are we naming the? Are we talking about specifics now? Or are we?
Sure, you can talk about specifics.
So we have three movies coming out that were announced. One takes place 25,000 years in the past, a long time ago, a long time ago. So it really hits the moniker.
Right.
We have another one that takes place because right now we exist in the Mandalorian timeline
Hmm.
because that content is coming out. So we have one that takes place. What would it be? 35 years in the future
Probably.
from where we exist in the timeline. And then we have one, which I think we should talk about first, the elephant in the room, that takes place now or in a few months or potentially a year from where we're at in the Mandoverse. Uh, you know, I'm really, I'm, I'm really excited, and I say that a lot, but
Mhm.
there is a Mandalorian movie in the works. That's the one we're talking about, the one with Dave Filoni attached to,
Yep.
and both him and John Favreau have been, instrumental in the Mandalorian success and fan service because they were fanboys themselves. They love this, which is part of the reason it's done so well, in my opinion, is because they're such huge fans of it. And if you've been watching The Mandalorian season 3, and I caught up on the last episode last night at some point, um, this season you see there's a definitive direction it's going, with a few moments in the season that deter a bit from the storyline. But overall, season 3 has had a goal, I think, and I think the Mandalorian movie is going to be the climax of what has been going on over season 3. Have you heard? So is it season 3 and then the movie, or is it season 3, season 4 and then the movie? I haven't
From
been.
what Favreau said, they've already got season four written.
Yeah.
So
So that
so my anticipation is they'll do a season four and then wrap it all up. And Earl, to your point, that probably some of the Ahsoka stuff, some of the Book of Boba Fett stuff, because
yeah.
they referenced Book of Boba Fett, so it's not dead on the shelf. And you know what? I'm okay with that because I really wanted to end strong, so we get that. I want Boba Fett to be who he is,
We
not
need to go back
necessarily
to
who.
Tatooine and throw him down another Sarlacc. That's what we need to do.
Yeah, because that turned out so well the last time for the franchise. But bringing all that stuff together, that's very Marvel esque. Tying, at least that's what we associate everything with these days. Is a shared universe. It's going to be interesting how Dave Filoni, if he's able to pull that off and pull that off well. I'll be honest with you, dude. That's a lot of pressure.
Pull it off in a single movie too.
Yeah.
You
How
know.
long is your movie going to be?
Well, I think if you do it right and you be smart about it, everything I think could potentially lead up to a single final battle confrontation.
Hmm.
Broken Ansible made a prediction almost a year ago, said that, or not even a year ago, what, half a year ago,
About
said,
half a year ago, yeah.
oh, the Mandalorians are going to leave and go settle somewhere else. And I'm like, you're fired. I don't believe anything you say. If he's right, I will let my children paintball me on camera for this channel. And I've been bad at making predictions on here, just to my shame. But you know what?
I'm,
He said
I'm,
that
I'm sorry. Say that again. You've been what?
I won the bracket, so you owe me
Yeah.
wings.
But how did Ant Man and the Wasp go?
What? I'm losing you. I'm losing you.
Exactly. That's how it went, ladies and gentlemen. Um,
Yeah.
by the way, Broken Ansel, I spoke to him this week. He wasn't able to join us, but he's just over the moon with the Mandalorian season 3. Loved every second of it. I'm like, of course you did. Mister, I hate
So,
everything, loves everything. I can't with him. He'll be back on the show one day when I have enough Quaaludes and volume. Uh,
again, so that's where we're at with the Mandalorian. But I think the question remains: if we get a movie like that, how do you not include Luke Skywalker, Leia Organa Solo, whatever she is at this point, Han Solo? I mean, these are very important characters that should be there. According to the established timeline, they're still involved, very involved at this point. So what is going on?
and
So
that is the thing I argued with you the other day, and you tried to talk me off a ledge, and I appreciate you. You know I love you, brother. Um, when they do these cameos, Zeb is wearing the flight suit, the blue flight suit, in that one episode of Mandalorian. And then you see Chopper and Sabine and Hera and all. Where were they when the main battles were going down? Now Earl's point was, well, look, they're out there doing things. They just weren't featured in the film, but they were more than likely involved doing things. But the fanboy in me, the nerd in me, whatever in me, is like, but I got to know what they're doing. So I have to set that aside because do I really need another book series that I'm probably not going to read because at my age reading, I do enough reading. I don't want to do more than I have to. I get your point and I get your perspective with that. But dude, I'm just going to say it's a lot of wires to tie together for them to pull this off. And since we're on the Mandalorian, we'll talk a little bit more about the movies before we go. Since we're on the Mandalorian, you said you watched the most recent episode. A lot of controversy online. There's a section of fandom that were readily going to hurt themselves, throw themselves out in the airlock after this. After this most recent episode, I just got to ask you, man, did you like it? Did you not like it? Lizzo and Jack Black joining the Mando universe.
honestly, I enjoyed it.
Okay.
I I feel like I know where we're going, and so I feel like I'm because you know how sometimes you're sitting in the car and the driver's driving, and you're like you're going too fast, you're going too slow. Where are we going? You should have made a right turn. You should have made a left turn. What? You almost hit the car ahead of us. Or do you want to kill us? Sometimes,
It's literally like having Lady Cephas on the call right now telling me how to drive. But continue on. You're doing great.
but then there are times when you know where the destination.
Mhm.
You know where you're going, you know what route you're taking now.
Right.
And so you can sit there comfortably and be like, okay, I see the speed, I see the traffic, I know which direction we're going, I know where we're headed. And that does, for me, it takes a lot of anxiety for riding with somebody out. If I know where we're going, I know we're
Right.
going the right way, I know the speed limit, and there's not, traffic's not threatening my life. And I trust the driver. So I think Dave Filoni and John Favreau have proven to be that driver at this stage again.
Right.
Because there's a moment earlier in the season where I'm like, I have no idea where we're going. We're going to crash into a wall. We're test dummies today, and we're going to die. But now I'm like, I think I know where we're going. I think I see the traffic. I think I see the destination, and I believe I see the route. And you know what? Now that I see all those things, I feel much more comfortable with watching episodes and being able to enjoy them for the fun that they are. Uh, as for Jack Black, man, I'm thinking about growing the beard out again just so I can be like, blah.
It needs to twist. It needs to twist too on the sides. Really make it look good. So I'm going to confess something. I didn't know that was Liz. I know who Lizzo is. I've heard the name, seen her. Did not know that was her. My wife, Lady Cephas, sitting on the couch, recognized her immediately, but she's far more up on these things than the old man is. But I'll be honest with you. I thought the episode was fine. It's in line with what the last three episodes have been. Now, that's where I want to. That's where I want to jump in. There was a report this week from I believe it was Deadline or Variety. I can't remember which one, but it was a major trade publication that the Mandalorian viewership this season is down 25% from what it was in season two. We know that at least one episode, but I believe it's two now, this season have been the lowest rated episodes in the history of the series. Earl, one of the things they made a point of saying is they record you Monday through Sunday. That's how they do the ratings, okay? That's how they do the streaming hours. And when you look at season one to season two, they were dropping episodes, if you remember, on Friday nights. So they were only getting ratings from Friday night to Sunday night.
Yeah.
And so that's 2 days. So think about it. That's what their initial ratings were. And those ratings were obliterating what
Everything.
what's getting Wednesday night, Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday night now.
Yeah.
Is there some fatigue? Probably so. I think Disney struggles because they don't have enough content they're creating enough to keep people focused on that channel. It's not like Netflix where I can click on there and find anything I want. I've been telling you we finished watching The Night Agent, which I would recommend people do that. My wife and I really enjoyed it. But there's always something. It may be terrible, but there's always something. Or Hulu or Prime or whatever. Disney suffers from a lack of awareness. I really feel that, number one. Number two, not having something to keep people's interest in other than the Mando, which is their flagship show, though. Make no mistake, that's what launched Disney Plus. It concerns me a little bit going forward, especially when you're going to make a movie. Then the third thing I'll say is this season has been very uneven. I've enjoyed it for the most part, but let's be honest, this is not the Mandalorian story anymore. This is the Bo-Katan story, or
Oh,
or the Mandalorian, and you put an S on it, and it becomes the Mandalorians. It's not the Mandalorian gunslinger anymore. And I really feel like after the announcements yesterday, that's where they're going. They're going to de-emphasize Din Djarin and even Grogu, and really move it into that direction. I think it'll come back around to him when the Mandalorian movie comes out, and so it's going to be really interesting how they're going to make all this work. And I'll say this: and I'll stop talking. Not only does it have to work, but you got to keep that fan base around for it. So you got to make
yeah.
sure that you're keeping enough of the fan base so when the Mandalorian movie comes out, people still want to see it. Remember, Grogu only takes you so far.
Well, you know what? I still stand. I'm standing firm with your theory of the Mandalorian isn't referencing Din Djarin. It's referencing the youngling Grogu.
Mm-hmm.
And if you've been paying any attention to the season, uh, obviously Bo-Katan has gotten a lot more screen time than Din Djarin.
Correct.
But who else has had almost equal amount of screen time? Grogu
Yeah.
has been spending a lot of time with Bo-Katan. So if something was to happen, conceivably, to Din Djarin, you could potentially have Grogu continue with Bo-Katan and
Right.
continue all that the merchandise and everything. So you don't have to get rid of Grogu if Grogu is the Mandalorian in the sense of your theory. So he can stay with the Bo-Katan and potentially become under her, and you can continue the story and kill Din Djarin. Because really, if he was to die right now, would anybody really be upset?
I think
Because
right in the moment they're in now, I don't think you can do it.
well, I
But
mean,
but I think you
story,
can. I think you can storyline lead to it and make
yeah.
it make a lot of sense.
Because you got the armorer, you got Paz Vizsla, you've got Bo-Katan, you've now met what was his name, something Wolves, who you got the other lady back from the second season of Mandalorian that was with Bo-Katan. So you've just
Oh,
explored.
what is that? Mercedes Vernado. Used to be Sasha Banks in
Yeah,
WWE. Yeah,
my brain was shutting down,
it's
but
okay.
I mean more so than normal. So I mean, you just introduced a lot of characters back into the fold. Who's going to be a permanent back in the fold as they come back together,
Yeah.
and so Din Djarin now almost doesn't matter.
Well,
So
if you noticed in the last couple episodes, to your point, he always stands behind or to the side. He defers, and that's very weird because that I'm not saying it's bad because I think you know exactly what you're talking where they're going. It's going to be the story of Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian. So he's really got to take a side step. But what I think will happen is he'll end up on a side quest, kind
yeah,
of on his own for season 4. Um, but I want to keep going on that thread on our last topic here, and that is the 3 movies that we talked about. Daisy Ridley was paraded out on stage and was announced as Ray's coming back.
yeah,
Some like it, some hate it. I'm just kind of like, okay. She has a movie coming out. Now we said a couple of months ago on this show, and we took our information from WDW Pro, Valiant Renegade. By all means, check out their channels; they're awesome, good dudes, and we actually get to participate with them sometimes on their show. Um, they had said there's a rumor in Lucasfilm that they will make a movie with Daisy Ridley as Rey, and add Grogu to it, and a couple legacy characters. They mentioned maybe a Chewbacca, maybe an R2D2, characters people love,
Yeah.
to kind of grease the wheels to get people to come out and see it. And I heard that, and I'm like, well, there you go. That's step one. And whether that's true or not, it's certainly now it's seeming really, really plausible, because if Mando's ending, Grogu needs to have somewhere to go. And if I understand correctly, the new movie with Daisy Ridley will be 15 years after the events of the rise of Palpatine. I mean, the rise of Skywalker, and that's what I'll pick up. Doesn't that make a whole lot of sense to drop Grogu in there, who will have aged some more? To me,
35 years.
to me, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
A lot of sense. So I could definitely see that happening. Now, will that make the fan base happy? Dude, I'm not sure you can make everybody happy on a good day, much less by releasing that movie or anything else. But I'm very interested. I Going into yesterday, I was kind of like, Star Wars is just that. I do it because I'm an old person. That's what I like. But coming out of yesterday, I'm like, there's a lot of positivity here. There's also a lot of questions. And there's a lot of ooh. So if nothing else, it's going to give us a lot of content over the next year, and so we're happy about that. And also, it gives us something to look forward to as fans. Say, okay, Disney, here's your chance. Here's
Can
the
you
ball. Here's the ball. Hit it as far as you can.
can you imagine a teenage body Grogu? He'd look like a gremlin.
I was thinking about that last night when I was going to get my daughter from her school event last night. I'm like, how would that look? And here's the other thing, CGI wise, does that work? Does the cuteness rub off? How does the fan base react to that? It's gonna be, dude, it's gonna be really interesting in what they do.
Well, to the plus side, they may play it safe and be like, okay, so we know how Yoda looks, older. But you know what? That's just one. I mean, we also have the owl, but I mean,
You
but I mean, there are, you know, you can do whatever you want to. I mean,
right?
Disney needs to realize that you can do whatever you want to. You can make him, you know, 3.5 foot tall. You can make him a different, you know, ethnicity of the Yoda species, where
Yep.
he can grow taller, or obviously he's not going to be 5 foot tall. That would be ridiculous for the Yoda species.
Right.
But you can make some variants, longer limb. You can literally make him look like a gremlin. And one hand, that's somewhat creepy. On the other hand, that gives you a lot more opportunity and play to do more things physically than Yoda
Yes.
ever. And
And good.
I have to call back to the meme of Yoda, and then I think it was like Spike from Gremlins, and he goes, "Young I was, money, money."
Needed the money. I did. Yes. All right. So I'll wrap this up with this, and that is, do you remember Spaceballs? Merchandising, merchandising, merchandising.
No,
That's gonna be your key. Is how much merchandise can you get? Because that's what all this is about.
Speaking of merchandise, I just want to do one little throwback. You remember in the Ahsoka trailer
Yes.
that little creepy looking thing? I
Yes.
have no idea what that was. It disturbed me when I saw it. If you watch, uh, either way, that's something that Disney loves to do, like merchandising, merchandising. Because guess what? If they came out with a line of those, people would buy them
Yeah.
just because they're cute and they're in Asaka and blah blah blah, and they're creepy. They're creepy.
Well, think about it like this. Now, Lady Cephas, we talk about her quite a bit on the show. Um,
Who?
in the '80s, she was a big fan of Prince and Purple Rain. That was her movie. I can't tell you how many times she's seen it. I lost count of her telling me, but she loved that. But you know what? They weren't making Prince dolls to take home, because a teenage girl is not taking a Prince doll home. But if that had been released today, we'd have Prince dolls, we'd have figures, we'd have totes, we'd have all kinds of merchandising, because that's where the money is made today. You got to have tie-ins to everything you release. Listen, went to Walmart the other night. They still have Jurassic Park toys up, because it's not even about the movie anymore. It's about the name attached to the toys, and they can still sell them, even though that movie is what, 2 years old now. And by the way, was it a great movie? The last one? No. But you know what? It made a lot of money because you slapped Jurassic Park's name, and Chris Pratt doesn't hurt either. And it's a success. Which we'll get to talk next week about Super Mario Brothers because there'll be a lot to talk about with that. We've been very Star Wars centric on tonight's episode, and that's kind of where we're going to leave it off. We're going to go a little shorter this week just because of schedules. But Earl and I want to thank you for listening, for watching, for
Great.
taking time to interact with us. Yes.
Where's our after hours, our overtime?
All right. I will give you overtime. Did you have a couple of things that you wanted to mention before we get out of here? Something that was not specifically Star Wars related.
Specifically, it's official. Matthew McConaughey is going to be in a Yellowstone spinoff. He is coming aboard. Now, what that means about the season 5, the Duttonverse, the OG Yellowstone, I think a lot of that's still up in the air because we're hearing separate things, but there's still reports of Sheridan Costner butting heads. But it is official. We are going to have a Matthew McConaughey Yellowstone spinoff, and that may be. It may mean everything's going to be perfectly fine with Kevin Costner returning and blah, blah, blah. And Matthew McConaughey's just getting the spinoff that he's going to be hopping into. Or it could be, we don't know if Kevin Costner and Taylor Sheridan are going to be okay. So let's start this spinoff so we have for everybody. But you know what? Regardless, despite all the off-screen drama, I do believe that there is going to be embraced because look at 1923 and
1883.
It's been embraced by the fans and people who aren't fans of the original Yellowstone series have watched 1883 because it's a Western. Yep. We don't get a lot of Westerns anymore. They watch 1823 because you've got Harrison Ford and Helen Mirren on TV. Who's not going to check that out? So, yeah, I think they're making some wise choices and pulling in Matthew McConaughey for a spinoff. You're going to bring in a base of fans that follow him around, waiting for him to go back to the olden days when he leaves the suit and the cars and go back to the bongo drums and the nude. I'm not one of them.
Well, all I can say to that is, all right, all right, all right. I could not do it. I'm sorry. It has to be done when Matthew McConaughey's name is mentioned. All right. Last little tidbit I have is Super Mario Brothers is on pace right now, as we record this on Saturday morning, for about $141 million 5-day opening. That would be $2 million short of what is it? The Minions 2, Despicable Me. So it's going to hit in that range, either a little under or a little bit over. I think because based on the budget, now the marketing is pretty high. Let's not pretend. But that's a really good 5-day haul. We're looking at the potential for $1 billion movie if it hits as well as it does this weekend over the next 4 to 6 weeks. That's a massive hit. Massive hit. And, Nintendo caught a lot of flack because there was talk about, well, we need Princess Peach to be more, we don't need a damsel in distress. We need her to be strong and more masculine. And Nintendo said that's not the game we built 40 years ago.
Yeah.
And so far the returns have been people were looking for the game and all the little Easter eggs. And so far it's hitting every note. The weird thing, critics, 50% like it, fans, 98%. I'm just going to leave that right there. You make your decisions for yourself. If you love it, love it. If you don't like it, don't like it. But think for yourself. Enjoy for yourself. Don't anybody talk you out of stuff. Because people will do that just because they want you to be miserable like they are. And that's not how we do things here on Midnight Magic Musings.
Nope, we want everybody to be happy and miserable.
As much as I make fun of the rise of Palpatine, it's okay if you like it. It's okay. You're loved and appreciated here. I didn't like it, but I respect that you liked it, and I want you to keep liking it. I certainly am not going to try and talk you out of it.
And I would say the final thing, we were talking about Star Wars. Now let's just give a shout out to the moon. So if you're going to be watching, if you're a Skywatcher or whatever, not a Skywalker.
I see what you did there.
We have an eclipse coming up. I think it's tonight or tomorrow night. So check that out. And then a couple days after that, we will have a nice little meteor shower over 2 nights. So check out the constellations, look up at the sky, watch the beauty in the sky, and think about a place a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away.
And just remember, it's probably a precursor to an alien invasion or the apocalypse. And with that, we're going to ask you to like this video. For those of you who stuck around for our craziness, subscribe. We really appreciate that. Our numbers have grown exponentially since we returned, and we really appreciate every single one of you. Share this out on social media. Let people know the craziness that we do. There'll be more stuff coming. We have a watcher file that went up this morning. We will have more dad jokes. Yes, not that anybody asked for them, but we're still going to do them because I have to have a creative outlet, and Lady Cephas can't take it all the time. So we'll get those out and torture more people than just my beloved wife.
Fear the
All
pain.
feel the pain. Everyone should share in that. All right. Well, for the Earl of Florida, I am your humble host, Lord Cephas. We appreciate you for listening. We appreciate you watching. We appreciate you interacting. And with that, we are going to say we will see you next week. So long, everybody.